And code enforcement. You ever had to deal with code enforcement? Those guys are like the hall monitors that didn't get the respect they needed in high school or middle school, whenever they were hall monitors. And if I ever have to deal with code enforcement again and I hear this podcast, I know it's not going to work well for me. But this is a conversation that came up in the mastermind here recently about dealing with code enforcement and some tips and tricks on how to successfully navigate what is essentially a battle where you'll never have the upside. And so I wanted to give you kind of some tips that I've learned. I've had to deal with code enforcement a couple of times, and really just one tip, maybe two. But let me tell you, I had a property. There's a really loud red bird behind me. Hopefully, it's not coming through the microphone, but I guess it's red bird. I don't know. I have no idea. I may go hunt it down here in a minute, and not hunt it down, but like see if I can see what it is. But I had this property. It was a single parcel of land, had 2 mobile homes on it. We no longer have this property in our portfolio. It is the only property that we've ever lost money on. We lost about 10 grand from purchase to sell, and so part of those monies came out of the code enforcement issues that I had to deal with. And I had a tenant, is inherited tenant. I think she had some mental issues now that I've thought back on it. This was the second property that we ever purchased. Second property we ever purchased. And inherited tenants, not in the best part of town, class C minus, maybe even D plus. I did carry every time I went over to the property, never took the family with me to that property. Ashamed to have that property in our portfolio at the time. You got to do what you got to do, right? You find a property you think is going to hit your criteria. You're just getting started. You got to buy some. You got to start where you can start. We still have one property in our portfolio that we sold on a seller financing. So I'm the owner financing it because we own it outright. I would love for that just to be out of our control altogether. But man, we got a great guy on that one. He bought it. Real quick, I'll tell you this story. So we bought this property at foreclosure. Matter of fact, I think I've talked about this in a previous podcast. It was not a foreclosure, it was a tax deed sale. We paid $7,200 for it. Got the folks out of there, got very creative with getting the folks out of there. They completely destroyed the properties. We just ended up bulldozing the thing over and then put a mobile home on there, rented it out for a couple of years, and then we turned into then those tenants moved out. I didn't want to rent it anymore. I got rid of the property manager. I don't know if there's a good one. I don't know if there's nobody. The saying is so true is nobody's going to take care of your properties like you are. And so we got rid of them, and so I didn't want to manage that property. So we ended up doing a seller, for sale by owner, seller financing, and sold it for, all in all, we've got 42 in it, but we sold it for 60. Buyer put $5,000 down, and we put his 10% interest for 10 years, and he's paid every month. He pays $1,000 every month, even though his payment's only like $515 or something like that. So he's gonna have it paid off early. But anyway, what was I talking about? Dealing with code enforcement. Oh yeah, so the property, 2 mobile homes, 1 lot. First property I've ever. Now, we didn't do a whole lot of due diligence when I bought these. Quite frankly, I was scared to get out and do them, and didn't want to spend a bunch of money because they're older mobile homes. I just knew that it was going to take some money to get them going. I didn't know how much. And what I mean by that is the washer and dryers were set up outside, not like in a covered patio or in a carport or anything like that. They were literally like, this is outside this porch right here, in the elements, in the rain, set up outside of the mobile home, and total code enforcement violation, complete total. I mean, you got power running out there. I mean, it's just. I think even the washing machine was hooked up to an electrical cord that ran inside through a window, if I remember correctly. But anyway, um, the tenants who were in there, they I don't really understand what was going on. There was a mother and a daughter, and the mother proceeded to tell me at one point in time, because I did I did not renew their lease. I got rid of them mainly because they had a litter of pit bulls inside the mobile home, inside the unit. We have a pretty strict no pet policy, and she was trying to sell me a pit bull or trade me a pit bull for rent or something like that. But during this conversation, she proceeds to tell me that her daughter, who's mentally handicapped, that boys down the street were taking advantage of her, and I'm just like, you need to call the police. You don't need to tell me. I mean, if this happened here, that's you need to call the police and do a police report. I was like, but anyway, I'm not renewing your lease because you got pit bulls. I'm not allowing pets. You got a car. There was a Camaro sitting up on blocks in the front yard. It's like, you can't do that. I was like, that Ford Explorer that's sitting over there that has mold growing on the windshield and has, like, I think it had 2 tires and the hood was popped up. It was never closed. It's like, you can't have that here. You gotta get rid of that, or you gotta get going. You gotta get rid of the puppies. You gotta get rid of the dog. And eventually, I think I had to go through an eviction process to get rid of her. But then 2 weeks later, I get a call from code enforcement, and I dealt with them before, and I kind of learned some things, and I don't like code enforcement. I think it's more of they're not put in a job to succeed, right? For the most part, I would not have their job for any amount of money. That's not true. At $1 million a day, I'd probably do it for a couple of days and be done with it. But they're treat people the way they treat them because of probably the normal situations they run into, right? And so usually when somebody comes at me, my guard initially goes up and says, no, I'm winning this argument regardless. And I'm going to win it with my words and my attitude, and I'm going to show you who the alpha male is in the conversation. It's not the best way to do it. I'm going to tell you, the first time that happened, it was a painful, drawn-out experience. I think we ended up going to court, whatnot, and I learned a lot of things. It was extremely expensive to get code enforcement off my back previously. So this time, I remembered that. It was very, I don't know, it was very enlightening or painful. So it was a very vivid memory. So I took the higher ground approach, right? And this is the only tip I'm going to give you in this entire thing, really, is back to the comment I made earlier about their hall monitors who just didn't get enough attention or whatever. I do feel like the code enforcement officials that I've run into personally, they wear a chip on they have a chip on their shoulder. They got to come in, and, they feel like they've got to make their presence known. I always want to look for a sense of cooperation. Like, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me about it. I'll work with you to fix it. I may have some feedback. These guys don't want feedback. To them, everything's black and white. Here's code enforcement. Here's the code. Do it, or I'm going to find you, or I'm going to send you to court, or whatever. And this time, I remember, this code enforcement official, very similar mannerisms, very similar way he was treating me, and I thought, and I got angry, I got pissed at the beginning, and I said, wait a minute, just take a deep breath. If I got caught in the hallway between classes and the hall monitors got to get on to me or take me to the principal's office, how would I get out of this situation? And so I started stroking his ego, right? I started building him up. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, I didn't know that. I said, I started talking to a code enforcement official. I wouldn't say we became buddies, but we didn't have to go to court, which is pretty rare in this case, as I understand it. And he told me who reported, and it was the tenant that I got rid of. And he's not supposed to do it. He's not supposed to do it. And I said, look, I'm just kind of curious, and I know you're probably not supposed to tell me. I said, but I find it ironic that I just had to evict the tenant who had all this set up and had this just, this was her house. But I had her evicted because of some lease issues or some lease violations. And the week after, or 2 weeks after she's out, that I get a notice from you posted on the door. And I said, I know you probably can't tell me. I was like, but I kind of feel like I know who it is. And he didn't give me her name because I had it already. But from the lease, he basically told me, yeah. So, trick to dealing with code enforcement, man, you got to play to their egos, talk them up, whatnot. And the kids and everybody just got back from the library, so it's about to get loud. And this is about where I want to end this one. So, guys, if you want to talk about something, message me, j@w2capitalist.com, or send me a text, 205-249-0248.